You know, you can't hit a target if you don't know what the target is.
That's exactly right.
In all the consulting I've done over the last 20 years or so, and that's the biggest thing on business owners. They don't know who their target is. You know, they think if they just, and even the social media marketing, anything else, you throw something out there and you hope it sticks to the wall. And you can't do that. Everything needs to be a rifle shot. You just can't shotgun blast marketing. You have to be a rifle shot, or else it's a waste of time and it's a waste of money.
Yeah, and I mean, I literally just coached somebody on that not an hour ago.
About?
Well, just, you know, being more targeted with social media. They basically came and said, like, you know, we're putting out ads, we're boosting posts. I'm like, well, A, don't boost posts if you don't have followers, because it's just going to go to your existing followers, not new targets.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, beyond that, B, like, do you know who your target audience is? Have you looked at who you have, and have you emulated that and created a profile for who your target audience is? And, you know, because if you're putting out ads without, if you're putting out ads without knowing who they should go to, they're just going to go to the wrong places.
In my experience, social media only works for a certain group of a certain handful of businesses that are out there. Barry, yours would be a very hard business to work with social media. I think there's other areas that you could use for marketing that would bring businesses to you. Email marketing, direct mail, things like that. But social media, and LinkedIn as well. And I know you're on LinkedIn, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And that probably works a little bit better for you. But advertising or doing business on Facebook and Instagram and what was the other one I was thinking about? Twitter. It's a different group of people altogether, and your target market probably isn't looking on those or getting those types of messages.
I agree with you to a point. You know, you have to look at the demographics on who you're trying to reach too. You know, those. I'm mid-50s. My age group has a tendency to Google a business or something like that. I generally don't do business with anybody that doesn't have a website. I know that those in a younger generation don't do business with people who don't have a Facebook page, and that's how they do their back end research on whether you're going to do business with them or not as a consumer. You know, so you have to know who your target demographic is, and that's the first and foremost. Who are your customers?
Yep. So we've had a couple folks join us a little bit late, and I just want to bring them up to speed on what we're covering in case you missed the gist of it. We're not just talking about social media today. The leading question was, I put out in the newsletter on Monday that today's topic was going to be a discussion and a brainstorming around what can the chamber be doing to help promote your businesses better. And social media became not just us doing social media, but educating our membership on how to use social media better was the first answer thrown out onto the table. So if you came in a little bit late and you're catching this conversation about social media, that's the gist of it. So we're kind of diving into those weeds, which is important, right? We all need to get better at being maniacally focused on who our target audiences are, right? And crafting the messaging that's appropriate and going to the platforms where they are, right? There's lots of pieces to all that. So Justin Tash is heading up our educational committee. I'm recording this call, by the way. I started recording partially through that conversation so we don't miss anything. But I want to give you all a heads up that we're capturing this. And I'm doing what I can to take notes, but Justin, I think there's going to be some good direction from educational content here. It's not just going to be coming out of our heads, right? On feeding where we go with this. So, but I didn't want to stop the conversation about social media either. So if you've got ideas and you want to keep running, let's keep going. If you want to keep diving into that.
Sure. So I read a book last night called Booked by Josh Turner. It's an older book. And so I'm not sure how well it actually it plays out. But, and Ryan and Jeff and everybody specifically, like your thoughts on it. But it's a little different than the standard content marketing. And it focuses on LinkedIn, but they say you can use it for Facebook or really any other network. But anyways, it's a little different than the standard thought of content marketing, create engaging content, and get that out to your target audience. More of it's create a group that your target audience is would be interested in, and then providing content for that group and becoming a trusted authority in that group as the organizer of the group. So an example it gives, if you're a marketer, or I think it gives some kind of, so if you're a marketer, don't create a group about marketing and give a bunch of content on marketing. Rather, create a group about business ownership and entrepreneurship and things like that, and then provide content based on that topic, and then you gain trust amongst your targeted audience there, and then move. It generates more leads and things like that, a more consistent stream of leads. And one point that I thought was very, very helpful was when you do a system like that, you don't need to create all your own content, because everyone knows content creation is laborious and expensive, depending on what you're creating, and it can just really bog you down. But really, you just have to know where to find other people's good content, and then you can share that through your group too. They had a term for it, and it seemed like an industry term, but I don't recall it off the top of my head. But does anybody have any thoughts of that? Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, that was it.
Curating content.
Yeah, I mean, we've used similar tactics before. There was when I was doing consulting for a nonprofit that was seeking, tax credit donations, we did a similar tactic where we created a financial literacy group and basically got a bunch of CPAs in the group. And then by becoming entrusted with them, we were able to ask and solicit for donations that way. So it works. It still works in today's market. This was, 6 months ago.
Okay. Do you find that whether or not it's better than the traditional create engaging content yourself based on your brand and what you offer, does it work better than that? I think it would work better for my industry specifically. I think
it depends. I think it depends on the industry. I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I think it's more actionable quickly. And in that instance, it's more targeted. Like, you're just, in my opinion, like, we were just trying to get specifically CPAs, and we need 5,000 followers. We didn't need 20,000, however many. We just needed like 50 on LinkedIn, and we got 50 on LinkedIn, and that worked.
So I think another piece of that, there's something a little more subtle hiding in all that too. It's third-party validation. You've got others who are contributing content to your group and validating the fact to the rest of that audience that what you're doing is on the right track. Right? It's different than you generating all of your own content. And at third-party validation, I think there's an important social aspect to that, and a trust factor that starts to kick up because of that.
I agree. What about so my target? I've defined my target audience more based on psychographics as opposed to demographics or income levels or anything like that. So CPAs isn't like, I can't click CPAs on LinkedIn. My target demographic is pretty vast. It's just more of a kind of person I like to deal with. How do I create that group? Anybody?
So phrase your question again, Justin. I
Sure.
didn't quite understand.
My target audience is more a personality, as opposed to CPAs that work here, or anything like that. It's more just we're really focusing in on the people that we like to work with and that we found don't cause us all kinds of headaches and problems and things like that. So we're really focusing in on more of who we like to work with. How do I define them on LinkedIn?
I feel like that's a complex question, man, because you're
It
working.
is.
Yeah, I know.
I feel unqualified to
Well-
answer it.
Just any thoughts would be cool.
And LinkedIn may not be the place. It may not be the channel.
Yeah.
So if you go back to the business model canvas, and there's that third box when you go through the flow, right, of the business model canvas, channel is the place where you're going to find, we identify where your audience hangs out. So where's your audience hanging out?
Justin, can I ask you something?
Sure.
Are you doing more divorce law, or what kind of family law are you wanting?
So we really only advertise for divorce. We do all family
Okay.
law, but our marketing budget and efforts are best spent in divorce. Everything else kind of comes in word of mouth and naturally, is especially as the divorce, as you complete a divorce, you likely will stay that person's attorney through the rest of their custody.
Okay.
Things like that.
So I was just putting in a
Okay.
private chat. I gave your name out to one of my clients this week because one of the first people they call when there's a divorce in the works is their financial advisor. Don't let him take my money. Separate my accounts. So I hear those things pretty quick in the decision-making process. So financial advisors.
Well,
And
there's
then
a
the-
lead generator for you right there, Justin.
Yep. And then the
Yes.
other idea is, are you guys hooked into any EAP employer databases? Because I found my divorce attorney through the database because I had at the time legal services through my corporate benefits. And I asked my corporate benefits department for a list of attorneys and providers, and I went down the list and did some research and picked one.
So that's fantastic. You know, there's somebody that you probably didn't realize that you were going to get divorce leads from financial advisors. Here's another one that you probably have never thought about, and all that is pawn stores and higher end pawnbrokers, that kind of thing. I had a pawn store that was a client of mine, and he said, I get all these people coming in for divorce, and they're always looking, who do you recommend for a divorce lawyer? Because they're selling things, selling diamond rings, all this stuff to get that. But my main question was going to be to you, what's your 80-20? What's your 80% of your business?
Divorce.
It's divorce?
Yeah.
Okay, because you have custody, divorce, child support, father's rights, high net worth divorce.
And those all kind of intermingle and play on each other. But those are the areas of family law that at least in Arizona, there's other areas that some people consider family law that aren't really, they're more juvenile law. And then we just refer those out.
And Justin, I just want to comment with Carolyn as well. I actually had a client, fairly new client this year, and I advised him, you know, he's going through a divorce and he goes, make sure, blah, blah, blah. He's telling me, I said, no, you need to let your CPA know, because if you guys have always been married and you guys are filing taxes together, you know, so a CPA, I don't know where you were going earlier with the whole CPA thing, but a CPA can actually be a good lead for you. The hard part is like, how do I tell my client that is going through a divorce in a time that's so sensitive for him? Call Justin, because I want people to, you know, like, how do I introduce you in something like that?
So how we've kind of answered that question within our own firm is we believe that knowledge is empowerment. And especially if they're coming to you and saying, make sure they don't get the money and things like that. You know, we practice what we consider or call no pressure consultations. So we like to give people the information they need, and we're not going to push them to hire us, to use us, to do anything really with us. We're just there to help when people want it. And then even when people can't move forward with our services, we do our best to get them in a direction of something that can help them.
Can you do on-demand videos on your website? You know, considerations if you're thinking about divorcing.
So
Or,
I am building an LMS program to put on my website right now, and it kind of is going to be almost like a virtual consultation, walk through the basic questions and things like that.
You know,
we
if you
talked
think
about
you're
this
getting-
about 6 or 8 weeks ago, maybe on one of these lunch and learns, where a couple of us, might have been Irene and me, I don't remember, we ended up in a direction where if you had, we were talking about opt-in magnets, right? And things hiding behind opt-in pages, lead magnets hiding behind lead opt-in pages. And if you had something to help couples avoid a divorce,
Yeah.
that was a conversation we had, what, 6, 8 weeks ago, maybe.
So I'm honestly, I'm scared of opt-in lead generation, things like that. If people don't actually call or specifically send me something just because of our rules of solicitation.
Of course.
I can't solicit business from anybody, and my license is very important to me, everybody. So I do whatever I need to do.
Yep. Understood.
And when you say you can't solicit business from, you mean you can't market your business to
No.
financial advisors or things like that, or what?
No, I was specifically referring to lead generation catchers, where, you know, if like and attorneys do it, I just choose not to. Where you I don't know, you want a white pages book or something like that, and then you give your email, and then you get to download the book, or you get to access the course and give your email and stuff, and then you get put on some kind of a drip campaign of some kind, typically, or someone will reach out to you directly.
And you don't want to be doing that, of creating a white paper that someone would download and then you would follow up with them?
No,
That's considered
just
solicitation?
because I think it could be.
Okay.
And
It's a really fine line with the bar association.
Yeah.
That attorneys can't do certain things.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in post-COVID times, when COVID goes away, a friend of mine, Al Molina of Molina's Fine Jewelry, down on was it Camelback and I don't know,
Scottsdale.
down there. He's actually in he has a store in Phoenix too. But so I'm thinking out of the box for you just a teeny bit. He has an outdoor show or a show at his jewelry store, and so what I'm thinking is that when I was there were a ton of high net worth men there. It was only for men, as far as doing this. They were there to look at jewelry, eat food, do all, and is very, very successful. And so maybe two things that I was thinking about is, one, you put a program together where you invite CPAs, bookkeepers, financial advisors, and all that to your business. Throw them a little party, throw some dinner, that kind of thing, and just introduce yourselves as the person that will help with those kind of work, or partner with somebody like an Al Molina, where you might use his place to invite his customers in, and you're there to, just say, introduce yourself to a lot of these different people.
Thank you,
just a different thought.
I think Ryan's been going like this for a minute, and Tim just joined us as well.
Sorry, Ryan.
So.
Did I cut you off?
No,
No,
I don't think so.
I just like to. I've had a
Thank you,
point
Jeff.
since forever ago, and I was waiting. And anyways,
Well, then
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off either, Jeff.
I don't. It cuts it away.
Okay.
But no, I think to circle back to your question about the groups is that it's kind of hard to define a personality, right? Like you could maybe try and do it down by interests and by who they follow, and say that like people who generally follow, Deepak Chopra are going to be more a certain way, or the Dalai Lama or whatever. Like if their interests are a certain thing, they might be prone to more be that personality, and you can try and do it that way. But I think that coming back to what Jeff is saying is you're going to have more luck by doing it for specific industries and trying to find those power partners and forcing those, creating your own power partners outside of BNI, because I know I don't like BNI, but creating those groups for financial advisors and things like that is going to be more successful than trying to find a personality, because if you're trying to find a personality, you're going to have a disunified group where the content may or may not hit with them.
And that was my concern after reading that book and thinking of how am I going to implement these tactics. I don't know how I was going to define it and how I've defined my client. Michael, I think that you had your hand raised.
I got just a question, kind of going off what Jeff was saying and what Ryan was saying. Have you ever thought about, getting with CPAs, financial advisors, things like that, and saying, hey, from a divorce attorney's perspective, if I could go back 2 or 3, 4, 5 years, knowing that my client is going to go through a divorce, here's what I would suggest to protect themselves to where they're at now. So they're a little bit more, they're doing a little bit better advice for their clients that could kind of lead into you.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Well, and
I'm just trying to be a little bit proactive.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I can create a proactive plan for financial advisors, especially with regards to separate property or something like that.
Just how they can advise their clients on how to protect themselves in the best manner as a just in case. Always do a prenup, always, do this, always do that, things like that. So and that's coming from an attorney's perspective, not from, a certified financial planner or a CPA's perspective. So it's actually from an attorney. So it carries a little bit more weight.
The weight to distribute your white papers.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. A beautiful part about us working for ourselves, for pretty much everybody here, is you can interview the guy, you can interview the woman, you can interview the person, whoever it is, and if you don't feel like they fit, you can just say, look, I'm going to refer you to someone else. I don't think you're a right fit for us, and just move on. So you don't have to take every person who comes down the door. I'm sure you've done it before.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Do you write prenups, Justin?
Not me personally, but my partner Brian does. Yes.
Okay.
That's a service you're from.
I get a lot of estate planning questions that I refer to estate planners.
Mm-hmm.
And usually I can tell a client's like, well, if I get divorced or die first, how is she getting my money? Or how is she not getting my money? So even partnering with like Lisa in our group, who's an estate attorney, because when they do that planning, they have in the back of their mind, if we get a divorce before I die.
Naming beneficiaries on a life insurance policy might fall in that same line. So you might have another power partner with life agents, possibly.
Absolutely. And I think this is such a topic that many years ago was very taboo to talk about. But I think more and more people talk about before they get married. At least maybe the older, not the 20-year-olds that go and get married in Vegas, but maybe like the older people that get married talk about that. And I know we were going with the financial, maybe putting a different hat on is if you were to go get a divorce or if you were unhappy in the situation, what's the first thing you do? So maybe like reaching out even to like having a connection with like bank people that, because it's usually the first thing is money, right? Everybody like starts hiding money, then purchase stuff that partners don't know about. And then the tax people is, it's all money, unfortunately. The first step, but even maybe, and this is, I don't know, I'm just like talking out loud, but,
you want to do a live program, I would do just
right? Take care.
So you're like, hey, I'm building this program for.
I just muted Joanne.
Okay.
I'm sorry, she was stepping on.
I was saying children, right? Because it's money and children. So I don't know, like finding connections where people that really, I don't know, like a daycare facility might know of a situation that could refer you to somebody to potentially.
So young people talk about prenups, by the way.
Do they?
Yeah, we talked about a prenup.
Good. Hey, I said younger. Okay, I'm talking like 20-year-olds that run off to Vegas and then And then
So just to help, Tim came in a little bit late. Thank you for joining us today, Tim. We don't get
Sorry
blessed with
for the.
we don't get blessed
Hey,
with your
Tim.
presence at too many of these lunch and learns. So I'm glad you're here.
Good morning, guys. How are you? Sorry, or good afternoon. Sorry, I'm late.
Is it afternoon already? So to bring you up to speed really quick, we are, I actually opened up the conversation asking for what can the chamber do to help promote your business better? Let's start the wish list of tools and things that we can be putting together as a chamber to really be helping you. And we've been talking about social media. I think some of the things I tied up here while I was listening to Justin and some of the notes I made is that we could probably do a better job of helping you guys all connect with each other. And maybe part of that educational content is how do you introduce, if I was to educate you on how to introduce me, if I gave you some tools to teach you how to introduce me, and everybody had access to that tool or some ways to answer those questions, I think we could have not alleviated some of this conversation, but I think I'm impressed with what happened here in the past 15 minutes of all the help that just came out for Justin, right? Because people are trying to figure out how do I introduce Justin, right? With a tough situation, potentially tough situation for a client. So I think if we can get better at those kinds of tools, and let's put something together there on an educational
I'm just
side.
going to call you the crazy bird man because I'm the crazy bird lady.
That works.
I actually
What do you
don't
think,
really know how to have people introduce me. Event ensemble, which was this morning, it's on Thursdays, unless I have Lucky introducing. I always sing something, and now I started out doing that, and now they expect it, which is fine because I can use an old song and just do it in a different way. And this morning I just rehashed the Facebook Live I did the other day, which was maybe it was last night. A parody to Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone, and when I did it, He's Still Hanging On. So it's so people who know that tune and a little bit about it recognize it and want to know what I'm going to do with it. So I always introduce with a song, but I can't do that everywhere I go. I'm not carrying my old lady.
And Lucky is
You got to
only
bring
a
Lucky
one
with
note.
you.
Lucky's only good at one note right now, so he's not carrying a tune very well. I didn't mean for you to mute on
actually
this
sings
one.
a little bit, and Sueño laughs. He was laughing earlier. So I can't tell you what he was laughing at, but he was.
Yep. So yes, if we could help educate other chamber members about how to introduce us, right? I think there's a lot of value on that.
Hey Tom, so
yes, sir.
just I don't know if you guys already covered it, but what we did at one of the other chambers was basically as part of like the referral organization, each member of the chamber put together like almost like a paragraph of what they do, how they do it. Like the very first sentence really captures like the essence of what you guys end up doing. So it's really easy for people to read. That way, at least like if you guys put together like anything on social media or anything like in print form, it's a simple, like, couple sentences long. And you just have to be real succinct, but making sure that it's focused enough so that everybody understands. Like if I look you up on the chamber site for like Irene's bookkeeping or Jeff or Wendy or Ryan, any of you guys that are on here, then at least that way it'll bring us to, be able to do it in a way that you guys put together yourselves, and then we're able to kind of not misrepresent something that you might not be doing as well.
That's a good point. So the member bios, I just made a note here of we could help promote everybody better if everybody had better member bios, or fine tune theirs maybe. I'm not saying that everybody's as bad, right? But those are on the traffic catcher pages too. There's an About Us, or I think it's About Us is the name of the section. So maybe we just all revisit our bios buried in that space and take Tim's lead on that and make sure it's much more concise.
And maybe have somebody else take a look at it too and see, because I have difficulty writing about myself. I have written bios and introductions for when I'm going to perform or whatever it is, but I could use somebody else's perspective. Maybe we should pair, do a team of 3 and have 2 other people look at it and say, well, that doesn't make sense, or I don't get that, or what if you did this? I mean, I think that would be helpful.
And that touches on something that Ryan and I were talking about this morning with mentorship too. I think there's an opportunity we could be pairing ourselves up a little bit better. Maybe
You
two.
know, I'm actually on the right track. That's
You might
nice.
be, Wendy. You might be.
There is hope.
Yeah.
Lucky seems to have one word to just be able to describe everything for you. So.
Well, he does have some other languages, but he can't see you, so he doesn't know what to say.
So something that I've learned just recently in the last week or so, in our bios, I'm sure we're writing about ourselves and all that, but we should be using the top 3 keywords that describe our business in our bios, and have that so that when the search engines come crawling, your keyword for your business is located in your bio, and it should not be something like best divorce attorney or something like that. You want it to be a specific long tail keyword. Irene, yours would be specialist in long haul trucker bookkeeping or something to that effect. You know, that's something that's impressed me about, you know, you get the long haul bookkeepers. And one other thing that I learned this week was another way to drive traffic to your business and drive traffic to you is help your customers, if you can help your customers when they leave a review, put a keyword, a long tail keyword in that review that reflects back to your business. And if they don't, then you go back in, whether it's positive or negative, go back into that review and leave a long tail keyword or 2 in your response to their review. Just saying, hey, thanks for the great review. We appreciate your business, doesn't do it. But if you do something like Barry would say, thank you for your review of our business condo experts. We appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to do to talk to us about our commercial business leasing or something to that effect. That helps drive traffic to you. So pay attention to those reviews with long-term keywords.
Interesting.
As well.
And Jeff, we've been actually implementing that for the last handful of months in our office, and I do think that it's helped us pop up higher in the map pack too.
Absolutely,
Nice.
It does.
Nice.
Absolutely, it does.
Okay. So we could be doing some coaching and consulting maybe for helping our members get more visibility in the community. Let me tie back to the question initially. Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome, Jeff. What else we got?
Can I just add something to what Tim said about the paragraph, you know, to get to know each other? You know what would be a really good idea? Maybe this is just a little ding for Tom. An expo.
You think? You know what? I think we're only about 4 days away from an expo, and I'm still.
Because what it will allow all the members or whoever, I don't know how you guys are forming it. I would love to go into Justin's booth,
Right.
and Ryan's booth, and Carolyn's, and Tim's, and Barry's, and Jeff's, and see all their things.
So the developer is still working on. So last night at 11:31, when I turned off my computer, I had it to a spot. I've actually got the system to a spot right now where you can create. You can register as a user, you can set up your booth, and you can start loading up your brochure rack. So I've got everything in place now. I just haven't flipped the switch and gone to production because I've had a very busy morning, but I've got the system to a spot. So you will get an email from me. I know you've been asking, and Zach, not on this call, both of you appreciate your patience because I'm still in a build phase, but I had to draw a line in the sand for myself and put September 8th on the calendar. So before end of day today, I promise it could be as late as midnight, but sometime today you are going to receive an email on how to register and set up your booth.
I think it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be awesome. And
Yep.
I know once I am able to go in there and I can possibly share it with the world out there and say, look,
And
what
that's,
amazing
yep.
event North Phoenix Chambers is hosting.
Yep. So the last final touches that I've been working on this week is being able to send a link as an organizer out to the booth invitations, right? But it also has to be a step further, and that's exactly what you were just suggesting. You need a link as well that you can pass on to the world on your social media, et cetera, to say, come check out this event, right? I don't know who it was that asked. It might have been Justin. Victoria's got a question as well, but I want to fill it. I just want to give you a real quick update on this piece. You don't need to be physically sitting at your booth from 9 to 5 next Tuesday, right? It's sitting there and babysitting itself. If you happen to be available and you stop in and flip a switch that says, yes, I'm available for live attendance, then somebody will see your Zoom account or whatever you're using for your video conferencing and be able to talk to you in the booth. Otherwise, you flip the switch and they don't see click here for a live chat, right? But they still see all of your contact information. They see your booth, they see your brochure rack, and then they can move on to the next vendor and work their way down through the expo floor. So you don't have to be sitting there from 9 to 5. And that's on purpose, right? Victoria, you had something.
Yeah, two things. Will that be a Zoom like that I would have it set up in the corner of my office to demonstrate the different tools? How does that look like?
You could. So think about a trade show. You're probably not going to be sitting in a corner of your office, although you would be demonstrating your tools and some of the things you do. That may not be a bad thing to be prepared for. But you're going to own your booth, so you can do whatever you want with it for the 8-hour day, right? If you want to hold up the beamer and show people what the beamer looks like, and here's what needles look like that I'm going to stick in your ear, right? And here's the Chinese seeds that I use for acupressure and all that stuff. If you want to be prepared to show off all those things, absolutely, that would work. That would work.
So is it for the whole day on Tuesday?
It's the whole day on Tuesday. But you don't have to be there all day Tuesday, Victoria, if you're available. All right. If you have a couple YouTube videos recorded, you can have those in your brochure rack, and you don't have to be sitting there attending them, but you can have links to them.
Videos be available.
Yep. So that's the kind of stuff you would put in your brochure rack. I'll give you a little more coaching in tonight's email on how to set up your booth. It'll take you less than 10 minutes to get your booth together. All right. So it's really not a complicated process. It's really straightforward.
And the other thing I would suggest, a lot of people know how to do social media, but I think if we could do a social media class, on getting pros and cons and getting help so that we can move forward with that, so we can work together as a mentorship program, that would be really good. I need that help. Okay. Thank you.
So Justin, I made note of that as well for educational content. We could definitely be covering some social media related stuff. Justin has something else interesting that he wants to introduce to the educational platform. All right, he talked about a book here a little while ago, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about what he's thinking about doing with books. Was that enough of a prompt?
Sure. So essentially, I'm going to be doing a monthly book review. I chose a topic or a book that I really enjoy, that I think everyone will really enjoy. That personally for me, it was honestly life-changing. And the book says it's life-changing, and it's right. So I just want to share this book, and it's a well-known book. It's called the 12-Week Year. But I'm going to structure these book reviews this one's parsed out into 3 presentations, and I'm structuring the review so that if you don't have time to read the book, that's fine. You just come and sit and participate in the presentation and the open dialogue, and the presentation should tell you what you need to know from each chapter, so we can all participate in the open dialogue. I'll start with this book. The last presentation will be in December. Each presentation should stand alone, from the others. And I'm using myself as a case study for this book too. I'm strictly implementing the principles in this book. So in December, I intend to say, guys, look at the success I have accomplished by using these principles in this book. So that's just a kind of a topic that we've done, or we're going to use as part of the education committee. It'll remain virtual throughout its entirety. Even when we go back to regular in-person events, it's going to remain virtual. That way everyone can, it's a little easier for people to make virtual meetings and things like that. So we'll start with this first topic and we'll move on to another book from there. And then I'll be taking suggestions for books. They're all business related, productivity related, social media marketing related. And if no one has topics, then I have plenty of books, topics. I have a list of books that I'm not even sure I'm going to get through my entire lifetime. So I hope everyone
like a book club or just a presentation format?
So I'm calling it more of a book review, because I think the book club indicates or makes people feel like they have to read the book. And I understand that, you know, people don't always have time to fit an extra book into their schedule of whatever they're learning for their own industries and things like that. So I intend to make it the presentation so you get a good understanding of the book and the topics covered of the book, and hopefully you could even implement the topics in your own life. But there's no requirement to read the book. I encourage everyone to read the book to aid in the discussion, but it's not required to participate in it whatsoever.
And one of the lunch and learns about 4 months ago, Irene, I'm sorry I just stepped on you, but I know that about 4 months ago, Irene, you mentioned, or you were part of a conversation we were asking about, could we build a list of books, right? A giant reading list of things that we've each found. So Justin and I've talked about that a little bit in the past couple of weeks as he pitched this idea to me, and I think it would tie in nicely to that. So I think we got some connection between the two ideas.
Love it.
Sorry,
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Did I say I love it? Because through this COVID thing, you know, what else can we do, right? We can't be working 24/7. Only work for 17 hours and you still have some time left over. So Justin, I'm right there with you. Please let me know what book it is. I'll start reading it. I personally finished a couple. I'm actually finishing Crush It, which Ryan, I don't know if you Crush It with Gary Van,
Gary V.
Yeah.
Gary V.
It's good, a little too crazy, but I just finished a For Profit book by Mike Michalowski. I can send you his last name. And he's talking about taking your, you know, profits and separating them into separate, literally separate bank accounts. So you can actually visualize your profit. And I actually started doing that about 4 months ago. Bad timing, right? During COVID. But I've seen a change, like where before it was like money in, money out, money in, money out, money in, you know, a little bit of savings, pay the tax, and then it's all gone. So I love the idea of reading it, reviewing it, your own experience. Did it work? Did it not work? Debunking the theories, right?
And selfishly, it helps me too, because I was sitting back, you know, in school, I have a theory that I'm working on. In school, we all learn how to be successful. In first grade, every one of us learn how to be successful. You read the material, you go to class, you talk about the material, you take a test on the material, and then you move on to the new material. But we stopped doing that. We stopped doing that when we get out of school, even though, you know, life is the test, but we stopped studying material. I know that, so this book, 12-Week Year, I've read probably 4 or 5 times now. And I think this last time in preparing my presentation is really when I got the most out of it, because I studied the book as if I would have studied any other thing that I was prepared for any sort of exam or anything like that, which is obviously way different than I timed myself, because I'm an attorney and I keep track of all my time doing everything. But it took me 15 hours to read this book. It's only 200 pages. It's not.
What's the name of the book?
The 12-Week Year.
Okay.
And I think that's always true when you're learning content to the point that you need to be able to reteach it. And if you've got that in your head when you're sitting down to read something for the first time, that you're going to have to be able to present on the content.
Mhm.
You're going to learn a lot more, but then you're going to learn even more when you present it.
Absolutely. So
You go up yet another notch in your application.
it's
of
like if I was
content.
preparing for a case, I read things way more in depthly because I'm preparing for someone to challenge me on my positions and things like that. So as opposed to the first 2 or 3 times I read the book, I just read it. And then honestly, I was successful in the book, only applying some of the principles loosely.
Right.
But even this is my first week of strict appliance of the principles. And I've already knocked a lot of things off my list, and I'm doing really well.
Okay.
And
So
just
back,
for the record, really fast, Tom, just for the record, it doesn't, you can do audiobooks, okay? Don't hate the audiobooks. Because
It is on audio too. So
while you're cooking, you can always educate yourself.
so I discovered Hoopla through the Greater Phoenix, through the Phoenix Public Library. Actually, I found it through the Maricopa County Library initially, and then it's also on the Phoenix. If you have a library card, Hoopla is free. A library card is free. And Hoopla streams to your phone as well as your desktop computer. So you can check out audiobooks, and that's all I've got in the car. Rarely I get in the mood for some Metallica or something when I just need to go brain dead for an hour. But most of the time I'm listening to John Maxwell, Brian Tracy, etc., streaming in the car while I'm driving.